Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Another Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, first Tuesday of February. And last Tuesday, no, not the last Tuesday before New Year, we got another one, right? But in
January.
any case, so let's just stay quiet for a few minutes, maybe half a minute, and we'll wait for the other student to join. So welcome everyone. Welcome Venerable De Hong. So another Tuesday, another chance to listen to Venerable De Hong's Dharma talk, as well as a half an hour or so sitting meditation, mindfulness meditation, and also loving kindness meditation. So with that, welcome Venerable.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Good evening, good morning, or afternoon, wherever you are. So tonight, I will continue with this talk on logotherapy or meaning center therapy. Give me 1 second. Is meaning center therapy is a way for the therapist to help the client to find meaning in their suffering, or to make sense of their suffering and how to go about it or how to go forward. So I like to start with this picture of a great site. I think I have shared with you guys about this person before. His name is Chuck. He spent 24 years and a half inside the prison when in California State Prison, from maximum to minimum. He was released in October of 2021, and he was able to parole to North Carolina to be with his mom. And a year later, he was diagnosed with liver cancer, lung cancer, and then brain cancer. And 6 months later, he died. He died on January of 2023. So it was last week. And it was so hard for his mom. And my point is to share a bit about his mom. She turned 90 on January 10. And so far she survived, 3 years to get through it. Her daughter died in 1977 when she was 16 years old. So she's still grieving her daughter, even though it has been almost 50 years. And her son Chuck was the only hope. She waited for all this year to be united with him, and then he died. So she was devastated. And of course, I have been talking to her for the past 3 years. I never met her uh, before he died. I only met her after. Because he asked me to keep an eye on his mom. He also told her about me. So that's our connection. But on her birthday, she called, and because we called, basically we talked almost every night. I texted her also every morning, every evening. And on her birthday, she talked, and with the elders, I'm afraid and I don't feel comfortable talking about death. But she brought it up. She said, "Hey, D, when I die, I mean," she said, "I don't know when I will die." I said, "Of course not." But then she said, "When I die, I would like to be united with my daughter and my son." And I was like, yeah, possibly, because just so you guys know, from the Buddhist belief, right, the teaching of rebirth. So after someone passes away, within a week or two, that person will be reborn into the next realm. So wherever that realm is, it would be next to impossible to be united with that person. But in a Christian believe in heaven, then they believe that they would like to be united with their loved ones. And you guys will see this in also in this book that near the end of the talk. Anyway, so and she broke down and cried, and she apologized, and I said, no, it's your birthday, cry all you want. um, and here's a tragedy, right? Her second husband died about 5 years ago. Her first husband died 2 years ago. All her siblings all passed away. There is only one nephew from South Carolina who would keep in touch with her every day, and he would drive to be with her once or twice a month. And the blessing for her is that she's very healthy. She's not taking any medication. She walks every morning with her friends, and she goes to church, Episcopal, every Sunday. And her goddaughter checks on her every day. I think last year or the year before, because she couldn't handle it, so she went to see a therapist for a few times, and then she stopped. But I guess, from talking to me and her goddaughter and her nephew, all of this do help her to deal with her grief. And she's we she talked about God or Buddha, and if you notice on her son's the marker, she asked to have the Buddha or Amitabha Buddha to be engraved on his marker, which was very, very nice of her. I couldn't say much about her the loss of her children, uh, to find meaning in it, because it's hard. But she's still very faithful to her belief and believing in God. So I think this is one example of logotherapy, is to find meaning in one's suffering. So to continue, I will, so I'm throwing this out for you guys just because I do work with folks inside the prison and also folks out here. A lot of times, friends that I know, even that I don't know, reach out and ask for suggestion or advice. And so basically, I'm posting some questions here, like when you feel stressful, take some time to investigate whether you feel stressful because is that stress physical or mental? Physical stress means you have to run around, driving around town, trying to get things done. Your body feels tired. You need to sleep. Mental stress can be positive or negative, right? Positive mental stress, you probably have to do a lot of reading, or let's say at work you have to go to a conference to learn about this or that. You feel mentally drained, but you learn and grow. You might be able to sleep well. The worst thing is the negative mental stress, meaning you have to deal with difficult issues. It could be grief, it could be finance, it could be divorce, or you have to deal with toxic people. And that that could make you feel very, very draining. And you may not even be able to rest or sleep. So basically, by taking some time and reflect on your stress, it can help you to learn how to manage, even if you cannot overcome that stress, especially negative mental stress. The other thing is, let's say in terms of your individual as a personal, is it from I guess the question one is kind of repetitive. Is it from work? Is it from relationship? Right? Sometimes we don't know, or we think that being stressful at home is normal, but it's not. It's not. It's common, but it's not normal, and it's very, very toxic, and it's very, very traumatizing. So you might want to see whether that stress is from your spouse or from your adult children, or from relatives or friends or co-worker, or from you yourself, from overthinking. Basically, knowing the source of your stress can lead you to come up with ways, figuring out ways to manage or overcome that stress. It takes time to figure this out, or talk to a therapist. Sometimes, talk to a few friends that because psychotherapy is basically talk therapy. You talk about the issue or whatever is it that you're going through, and then after all the talk, you can try to make sense out of it and how you can manage or overcome it. And so, and the other important thing is to remember is not to blame yourself or criticize yourself. It is not about karma. Sometimes, especially in the Asian cultures, people, when they suffer or had a lot of issues, they say, "Oh, I deserve it because for my past life or for my past misdeeds or whatever it is." A lot of times that's nonsense. So you might want to rethink about, or shift your perspective. Don't think that you must suffer, and try to step out of that situation just so that you can look back in and see what the issues are and know how to deal with that. So continuing with this book, Logotherapy or Meaning Center Therapy by Dr. Viktor Frankl. This is a bit of the review, and this is from last month. Dr. Magda Arnold, a Canadian psychologist, said that every therapy must include some logotherapy, meaning to find meaning in your issues. And Dr. Frankl emphasized this sentence, live as if you were living already for the second time, and as if you had acted the first time as wrongly as you are about to act now. Meaning that if as you approach the issue, as you speak, as you think, as you act, as you speak, do it in such a way that you are doing it the second time. Just this way, you are more careful, you are more mindful, and that you won't be that easy to make mistakes. That's the key. He also emphasized the three different ways in logotherapy: creating a work or doing a deed, by experiencing something or encountering someone. Number three is by the attitude we take to unavoidable suffering, as a way to find meaning in your suffering or stressed. So going on, Dr. Edith Weiskopf Johnson, she was a psychologist from University of, I believe, Georgia. Yeah, and she said, even this book was published in 1950s, right? And even she said the current mental hygiene of the philosophy stresses the idea that people ought to be happy, that unhappiness is a symptom of maladjustment, and such a value system might be responsible for the fact that the burden of unavoidable unhappiness is increased by unhappiness about being unhappy. The problem in Western society, and especially in America, that oh, we need to be happy in order for us to feel okay. That's not necessarily true. And especially if you look, and here, and she also said, like, it may help to counteract certain unhealthy trends in the present day culture of the US. This, again, the book was published 50 years ago, 1950s. And if you look at the current issue now that we as Americans experienced, there are so many Americans who are unhappy. My Just one personal experience. I spoke to my adopted father from the 80s. He's 78 this year. In Cleveland, Ohio. He's a Vietnam Navy vet, and he is looking at the current state of politics, and he even he was like saying something pretty bad that I can't repeat it here, and he even said, I felt ashamed having to serve this country. Just to let you guys know that if you feel bad, this and that, you are not alone. it's it's a lot. The majority of adults in America also feel this way. And the key about suffering, especially for Dr. Franco, is that when he and others were being held in the concentration camp, most people say, will we survive? If not, all this suffering has no meaning. But for Dr. Franco, what he was being kept in the camp, he was writing his manuscript and he was trying to hide them. And then he asked himself, has all this suffering, this dying around us, a meaning? For if not, then ultimately there's no meaning to survival. For life, whose meaning depends upon such a happenstance as whether one escapes or not, ultimately would not be worth living at all. He spent almost 3 years in the camp, and he was able to survive. He was get out with his manuscript, which for him to put together in this book. That said something about his will to live, his resilience, and also his ability, and that led him to become a psychotherapist. And he also cited another example of a mother who tried to commit suicide because her 11-year-old son died. She has an older son, probably a couple years older, who was crippled because of the infantile paralysis, and he was on a wheelchair. He had to be moved around, and he stopped her from committing suicide. For him, he wanted to live. Life had meaning to him. So in the group therapy, Dr. Franco asked the mother to imagine her life 50 years from now, at the time in the group setting, and look back. And she said, I wish to have children, and this wish has been granted to me. One boy died, the other, however, the crippled one, would have been sent to an institution if I had not taken over this care. Though he is helpless, he is after all my boy. And so I have made a fuller life possible for him. I have made a better human being out of my son. And then she broke down and cried, of course. As for myself, I can look back peacefully on my life, for I can say my life was full of meaning, and I have tried hard to fulfill it. I have done my best. I have done the best for my son. My life was no failure. And as you guys know, she spoke with grief, because she just lost her son, but she visualized 50 years from now how she would feel. The other thing, another minor topic in this book is the super meaning that how we can withstand this capacity to deal with unconditional meaningfulness. And again, this is another case. He spoke to a rabbi who lost his wife and 6 children in the concentration camp of Auschwitz. Then he remarried, but his second wife couldn't have children. And the thing is, as an Orthodox Jew, that rabbi had no son who would say Kaddish for him after his death. And Dr. Frankel told him, procreation, meaning having kids, is not the only meaning of life. And he continued to inquire the rabbi whether he did not hope to see his children again in heaven. And this is, again, in Christianity, even in Judaism, people, when upon death, they would like to be in heaven and see their children in heaven. So he broke down and cried, explaining that his children died as innocent martyrs, and that they were worthy to be in the highest place in heaven. But for him, as an old sinful man, he couldn't expect to be in the same heaven, highest place. And then Dr. Franco said, how is that conceivable? Precisely this was the meaning of your surviving your children, that the meaning through these years of suffering, so that you may be purified through these years of suffering, so that you too, though not innocent like your children, may become worthy of joining them in heaven. Is it not written in the Psalms that God preserves all your tears, so perhaps none of your sufferings were in vain? And the rabbi actually felt better, a sense of relief, thinking that after he died, he would join his children in the highest place in heaven. The other thing is this thing he called transitoriness, meaning in Buddhism is impermanence. But in logotherapy, change, the transitory aspect of life gives you the potentiality. At any moment, for better or worse, what will be the monument of his existence. The other thing that we have, even for me, is this anticipatory anxiety that he observed in neurotic individuals. And so he cited a young physician who actually, because of his fear of perspiring, meaning sweat, and whenever he expected an outbreak of perspiration, his anxiety, produced more excessive sweating. So Dr. Franco advised him that in case the sweating should occur, to resolve deliberately to show people how much he could sweat. So a week later, he said to himself, when he met his client, he said to himself, I only sweat out a quart before, but now I'm going to pour at least 10 quarts. And the result was that after this phobia for 4 years, he was able, after a single session, to free himself permanently from sweating within a week. Another minor topic is called pan-determinism, is that man, which disregards his capacity to take a stand toward any conditions whatsoever, meaning that man is not fully conditioned or determined, but rather determines himself whether he gives in to conditions or stands up to them. In other words, meaning he determines his future. And he said basically man does not exist, but always decides what his existence will be, what he will become in the next moment. And again, this is similar in the Buddha's teaching, right? Our current situation is the result of our past actions. Our future depends on how we live our lives right now. The other thing is the tragic optimism. Again, this is from the that we human has the potential to turning suffering into a human achievement and accomplishment. derive from guilt the opportunity to change oneself for the better, and derive from life's transitoriness an incentive to take responsible action. And this is a characteristic in the American culture. A human being is not in the pursuit of happiness, but rather in search of a reason to become happy through actualizing the potential meaning inherent and dormant in a given situation. And he cited a study that was done by a young patient who suffer from unemployment neurosis, and it was because triggered by social economic situation. Um, so I think it would go back to the 1900, and a lot of folks, at the time said that being jobless was equated with being useless. Being useless was equated with having a meaningless life, which is not necessarily true. And you guys can see the current situation now, especially the Gen Z, or a lot of folks who couldn't find employment. And here he said, this has to do with the three facets of life of this unemployment, neurosis, depression, aggression, addiction. And most depression cases result from the view of an existential vacuum. For addiction, there was this Dr. Annie Marie von Forstmeyer noted that 90% of the alcoholics she studied had suffered from an abysmal feeling of meaningless. Of the drug addict study by Stanley Krippner, 100% believe that things seem meaningless. So this is, again, addiction is a major issue in America. I'm going to, here, just one thing. And he said, how to find meaning. Basically, look, he gave an example of a movie, right? A movie consists of thousands upon thousands of individual pictures, and each one of them makes sense and carries a meaning. And yet, the whole film cannot be seen before the last sequence is shown. So we cannot understand the whole film without having first understood each of its components, each of the individual picture. And the same thing apply to life. Doesn't the final meaning of life to reveal itself if and only if on the verge of death? And doesn't this final meaning depend on whether or not the potential meaning of each single situation has been actualized to the best of the respective individual's knowledge and belief? Again, his emphasis is on creating work, experiencing something, and the attitude to the unavoidable suffering. This is repeated. The other thing is the mystery of evil, meaning that a crime in the final analysis remains inexplicable inasmuch as it cannot be fully traced back to biological, psychological, or sociological. So totally explaining one's crime would be tantamount to explaining away his or her guilt, and to seeing in him or her not a free and responsible human being, but a machine to be repaired, as criminals themselves abhor this treatment and prefer to be held responsible for their deeds. So a convict serving sentence in Illinois penitentiary sent him a letter, and he deplored that the criminal never has a chance to explain himself. He is offered a variety of excuses to choose from. Society is blamed, and in many instances, the blame is put on the victim. And also, he went to San Quentin, believe it or not, and he told the folks inside the prison that you are human beings like me, and as such, you are free to commit a crime, to become guilty. Now, however, you are responsible for overcoming guilt by rising above it and by growing beyond yourselves, by changing for the better. And they felt understood. And one of the former prisoners wrote to him that they started using his book, the logotherapy, inside. This is what they call a self-help group, and it's led by people inside the being incarcerated. and they had 27 people, and the newer ones, the people who left the prison stay out. Only one returned. So this book is approved by the Board of California's parole. For you guys, I think you can form a group with 3 or 4 people and start using this book. And lastly, Chen Yakan, I like to use him as an example. You guys can Google and read about him, even go to plumvillage.org. He coined the term engaged Buddhism. He co-founded Order of Interbeing. He founded Plum Village Monastery in France, US, Hong Kong, Germany, Thailand, and Australia. He published over 100 books in different languages. 8 of his books are approved by California's Board of Parole hearings. He said, with him, he was interviewed by the Inquiring Mind, which is a Buddhist magazine, no longer exists, but the website is still up. And the reporter asked him, "What was your action in the Vietnam?" And here's what he said: "We protest against the lack of awareness because many people did not want to look at the reality of suffering. So we brought awareness of the suffering to their doors, into their homes." That is the work of information, bringing information about suffering. And so engaged Buddhism is meaning that you go, instead of sitting in the monastery, meditating all day, when you have time, he actually went into the village and rescued people, tended to the wound. Then he said, the question was on collective karma. Vietnam had to suffer as a society. And his answer was, the karma of Vietnam is the karma of the world. Vietnam is everywhere now, in America, Central America, Africa, Cambodia, even in Latin America, South America, Canada, Europe, right? The thing here is that everybody wanted to take up guns in order to kill our brothers, and they thought that they had to do it in order to save us from the other side. But the thing is, we see that Vietnam is everywhere now, and everybody is taking sides. Few are trying to do the work of mediation, reconciliation. And here's the list of his monasteries throughout the world. And here's what his meaning is. His life's meaning is to bring peace to the world. Not just Vietnam, to end the Vietnam War, but to bring peace everywhere. As you guys have probably followed on social media, there's a group of 19 monks who walk from Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, to now, they're planning to walk 2,300 miles. They are now in Virginia, Ashland today, I think, and yesterday they were in Richmond, greeted by Governor Abigail Spanberger and Mayor Danny Avula. And his life's meaning is to reduce, if not eliminate, suffering in the world. His emphasis on mindfulness in each and every moment. You don't necessarily have to meditate every moment, but you can be mindful in each and every moment and live your life according to Eightfold Path. And he inspired others to live mindfully. And this lifestyle could lead to enlightenment. With that, I will end this talk, and we can transition to meditate. So let's get into your posture. Take some deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And when you breathe in, make sure that the air go all the way down to your belly. And also breathe out from your belly. Or you can breathe in counting 1 to 6. Pause, counting 1 to 4. Breathe out, counting 1 to 6. Pause, counting 1 to 4. This is to help reduce anxiety So whichever technique that works for you, you can go ahead and do it. It helps to let go of your thoughts, thinking, planning, fear, worry. Let it all go. Everything that you encounter since this morning, the past week, the past month, try to let it all go. Tell yourself that you are safe, and tell your brain that you are safe, so that your brain does not have to be in hypervigilant mode, trying to find safety. Once you are done, then breathe normally through your nose. Allow your body to settle. Feel the contact between your posture and the chair that you are sitting on. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile, and how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in your body. Just be aware that the feeling and the sensations are fading away. Then let's see what you feel next. Let's bring your awareness to your breath. Let's spend a couple minutes to just sit and breathe to calm your nervous system. When you become upset or feel sad, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system that affects a lot of internal organs. Then your body, the whole body becomes distressed. But if you remember to sit still and just breathe normally, then it triggers this parasympathetic nervous system. It calms your body, it soothes your internal organs, and it brings about this peaceful, resting flow. Something that everyone can do a few times throughout the day. You can sit on a stand or even walk, but just pay attention to the breath and use the breath to calm your whole nervous system. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's continue with the sensor practice. First, notice your environment, the space around you, around your body. And use your body to feel the room temperature. With your awareness, let's check in with your mind, see how busy it is or clear. Is your mind lost in thoughts or wandering out of your room, your space? Notice your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude. Notice what you can hear in each moment, and whether you are reacting or letting it be. Your sense of seeing, smell, and taste, these three senses during meditation are not active because there isn't anything to trigger them. Then your sense of touch in the body, see how the clothes that you wear feel on your body. The sense though practiced can help you to stay grounded and centered, that you can do anywhere, anytime. So you don't get distracted easily or feel overwhelmed when you're being triggered. Let's bring your awareness back to the breath. Follow your in-breath and out-breath. Let's use a few minutes to process the thoughts in your conscious mind. It's estimated that a person has 50,000 thoughts a day. And it's important to take some time besides breathing to clear some of the thoughts in your conscious. So sit back and relax. Allow the thoughts to come up one at a time and let it pass. And let go of thoughts that are negative and harmful. See if there's any negative self-talk in your conscious mind, because it becomes your default mode network. Things like, I hate myself, I blame myself for everything, I must suffer, I don't like me. All of those, flush them out. Because if you don't, they occupy a mental space and also some neurons. And they become this default mode network. So flush it out and promise yourself, remind yourself not to ever repeat them. Then you can replace the negative self-talk with the practice of loving kindness and compassion. If someone did something or said to you that was toxic, let that go. Let go of that person as well. Let go of fear, worry. Fear of the future or unknown leads to anxiety. So try to let it go. See if there's any anger, ill will, resentment, or hatred. Try to let them go. And this is how you purify your mind, just as you would clean your house, your room, your bed. Let's stay with the breath. Let's transition to practice compassion for yourself. Compassion is your ability to recognize your own stress or suffering and learn how to care for yourself instead of reacting or making it worse. This is a mental training of the mind, meaning you are planting the seed of compassion and water it, fertilize it, letting it grow. And you can repeat some of the following phrases. May I recognize any stress, difficult issue, or people that I experienced. May I not react to any of them. May I not say or do anything to harm myself and others. May I love myself unconditionally. May I be calm and peaceful. Just keep repeating these phrases and allow these phrases to be pushed into your default mode network, which in turn push into your subconscious mind. Then everything that you think, every time that you think, you act and speak are based on compassion. So you're constantly nurture, water this seed of compassion. Allow it to take root, to grow into a big tree. May I recognize any stressed, difficult issue or people that I experienced. May I not react to any of them. May I not say or do anything to harm myself and others. May I love myself unconditionally. And may I be calm and peaceful. Just keep repeating them. And it's one way, one direct way to push those phrases into your default mode network, into your subconscious mind. Then see how you feel when you have compassion, meaning when you treat yourself with love and kindness without conditions, just as a mother would care for her child or a baby when the baby is suffering. That's compassion. See how you feel and how that feeling affects your body and the emotions running in your body. Let's sit in silence for the next couple minutes. So allow yourself to be immersed in this compassion that you're cultivating. Let's check in with your mind one more time. See how settled, how clear it is, focused, less reactive, less judging, less wandering, in total stillness. Notice the qualities of mindfulness or awareness, concentration, patience, and compassion that you just cultivated. Notice your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude. Remember that all these four could have an effect on your thinking, speech, and behavior. Check in again with your body, your posture. With that, I hand it over to Danny. Thank you.
Excuse me. I want to comment on your talk, but I was texting with one of your students, Tian Nguyen,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to formalize our first class, Sunday class. Many of you out there who are my students on Saturday, you know that we've been planning on having an in-person meditation class in Oakland, California, at the edge of Chinatown. And so I was just texting him because I was so excited that you'll be coming up. And I think the comment he just made, the last comment he made, is I think all of us, he's talking about those who are formerly incarcerated, all of us who are formerly, you said that, all who are formerly incarcerated recognize how meditation was such a key part of our life while we were incarcerated. But then since we've been out, it has taken much of a back burner compared to things like
Yeah,
work and relationship. And
he's
so
doing too
I think
much.
that's, yeah, that was exactly a conversation you and I have, in that in some way, the work that you have done, the work that you continue to do inside, behind the walls are very, very important. And one of the statistics that I mention over and over again is that in a in, typically a person who's released from prison have a 65% chance of returning. That's
Mm-hmm.
how bad it is. I guess it's called recidivism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Recidivism.
Yeah, recidivism.
And so if you say 1,000 people who've been released from prison, 650 of them return.
Yeah, at least.
That's amazing. At least. So then, for those of you who haven't heard this, so one day I asked Venerable De Hong, I said, either directly or indirectly, how many people that you have touched who have released from prison? I'm not talking about the ones that are still in there. I'm talking about the one that has been released. And Venerable De Hong said, "Oh, more than 1,000, quite a few more than 1,000." I said, "Well, let's just say 1,000. How many of them actually end up going back?" And he said, "2." Now, so that speaks to how important the work is behind the goal. But then it's really, really hard once you get out
Mm-hmm.
to stay. So that's the reason why we're now starting the Sunday class, and I think it looks like it's just the right thing to do now. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I forgot to get some water. Anyway, back to the 19 monks who are walking towards our
DC. Mm-hmm.
DC capital, our oasis of tranquility.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen there. But I'm sure he won't be invited into the
of
White
course
House for
not.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm sure all the ICE agents will be there, to greet them.
Yeah, they all have dark skin.
They all dark skins. They all wear funny, funny uniform, and they speak funny. Like, if they speak English at all, they speak with funny accent. So anyway,
Mhm.
so you were talking about suffering, and how we deal with them, the emotional sufferings, the spiritual suffering. And yesterday, I just glanced at one of the excerpt of his Dharma talk, where the people were asking question about why some of them don't wear shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, most people looked at and they can react one or two ways. They react the same way that, Jesus carried the cross, and they think that that is a sacrifice that the monk make on their behalf, or they think that they're mutilating the body, you know which is also not a good thing. So he answered in a really good way. He says, well, first of all, we practice what Buddha teach, something that we call the middle way. So we're not really ascetics. Our job is not to torture our body. At the same time, we are practicing not to enjoy our physical pleasure. So we're looking at the middle way. And he says, now, just so you know, it really is painful to walk without shoes.
Yeah.
He says, there are rocks, there are nails, there are glass, there are all
Yeah.
kinds of things. You cannot imagine, what's on the road. And then sometimes we can't even walk on the paved road. We have to walk on stones. It's really, really painful, no question.
Yeah.
But he says, but the pain is only 10%. The rest is how you deal with the pain. And if you add everything up, that's suffering. So we feel the pain, and it's our practice not to be overwhelmed by the suffering. And so that's where mindfulness meditation comes in, is that we know exactly how to deal with our sensation,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't get attached to them if it's pleasant, or we don't become averse to them when it's unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our practice. We're not doing it for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I can't even do it for you if I wanted to. You have to do it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I really like that. I really like that. Well, he seems to have a really amazing following.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's something else I want to talk about, because you don't actually have a temple,
No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not attached to a particular temple. Sometimes you go just because you're needed there, but most of the time you don't. Your temples are actually
In the
on the
prison.
road, in the prison, on the
The
road,
prison.
wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I was all of this video that I mentioned, actually I post them on all my social platform. And so there was a person who's not a Buddhist. He's actually a Christian, and he talks about, well, he criticized his own association, which has to do with church, but particularly a black church. And so I don't want people to think that I'm criticizing other people, but let me criticize my own kind, which is the Chinese, Buddhist temple. And so whatever he said actually applies, which is that we expect people to come to us, and we built these, monuments to serve basically our own, and then we expect that people will come. So when we say that we want to bring Dharma to people, we're bringing them to whoever that comes through the door, and we think that that is the place. And whereas back in the days when Buddha was alive, they didn't have a temple.
No. He went to
It's
them.
he
Mm-hmm.
went to them, and they every time you read, they're sitting under the tree,
Yeah.
because there's shade, and so they walk,
Mm-hmm.
and then they walk from place to place, and then after lunch, after their one meal of the day or two meals a day, then he'll give a Dharma talk, but it's always somewhere else. It's never a fixed place. He brings Dharma to people,
Mm-hmm.
just like the 19 monks bring Dharma to people, and just like you.
Mm-hmm.
You bring Dharma to the prison. You don't wait for them to come to you, right?
They can't.
Because
Mm-hmm.
they can't, right? I find that necessary. I think that what we're trying to do now with this in-person meditation class on Sunday is, again, bring Dharma to people. We don't bring people to Dharma, right? And so we're starting on this facility that we're lucky enough to get access, and maybe we could continue and just bring it somewhere else,
Yeah.
bring it where it's needed.
Correct.
Bring it to school, bring it to you know uh, old people home, bring it where
Yeah. Nursing
bring it
home.
where. Yeah, I think that's what I think that's what we all want to do. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
yeah, just so anyway, remember, pain and suffering doesn't need to be the same, right? Pain is just how you feel, how the body reacts to sensation, and most of the time when the pain goes away, we don't go away. We actually chase the pain. When someone says something really bad to you, they're already gone. Sometimes they're already dead. And
Yeah.
yet we right? Right? Like I say, we talk about this many times. It's really remarkable how you deal with the suffering that you have as a child.
Yeah.
And so you in some way you're benefiting from your activity in the prison,
Correct. I could relate
because
to them.
you could relate to them. You could relate to them, and they could relate to you. And so together you're it's a mutual therapy,
Yeah.
right? Right.
It's group
Okay.
therapy.
It's group therapy, yeah. It's
Yeah.
group therapy. Yeah. So you're lucky to have the chance to go to jail.
Yeah. For free.
For free, yeah. And even more lucky, you don't have to eat the food.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so thanks for everyone for joining us once a month.
One month. Thank you.
Once a month. Now, if I remember correctly, next month, March, normally we would have on the first Tuesday, which is the third, but as it turns out, I'll be traveling, and Dr. Kwok, Joanne, will be traveling. So we'll be off for 2 weeks, and we'll come back on the 17th. So we will do our English class on March 17, and we have a special guest.
Yeah.
A special guest, a Theravada monk born in Malaysia, and was actually a scientist in his early preordained life. And he's now a visiting scholar at the University of the West. And Dr. Clark invited him, thinking that we would benefit from his talk. So I look forward to that.
Okay. Good.
Okay. All right. Let me turn off our